Episode 3, Take 2. We actually filmed this episode of the OverQualified Golf Dads Podcast yesterday. I had some audio difficulties and whatnot, and it was also early in the morning, and there was some stuff that happened that we didn't know about. So welcome in, Maddux. Maddux Lytle is my co-host. He is the head golf coach at Point University. It is January the 2nd, and we are getting ready to watch his Georgia Bulldogs play the only game that's going to be played this afternoon. How you feeling?
The anticipation has been doubled because yesterday I was scrolling or like refreshing Twitter and Facebook and everything else, trying to find a definitive answer on whether we were going to play last night or today, and then got moved to 24 hours and then got moved to 4 o'clock day, which is totally fine. I wanted it to be earlier because, again, anticipation. I'm a little bit of an anxious person sometimes, so for that to get pushed back on me a little bit is a bummer. I mean, like you said, we recorded it yesterday. I was up early yesterday and literally spent the whole day cooking for some folks to come over and watch that particular game. They still came over and ate, but we got to watch the mollywopping of Oregon, Ohio State. Or I guess Ohio State, Oregon.
All right, so real quick, well, let's go back into a little bit of our predictions because we were both right. We were both right on each one. One of us was right on one of us was right on the other. So we had 2 games yesterday. The first of the day was Texas and Arizona State. And I went on the podcast and said I did not think Arizona State was going to compete. I did not think it was going to be close. And about 5 minutes into that game, you texted me and saying to clip out your comment that Arizona State was going to cover. They were going to make it a game. You love the running back, Cam. I'll go ahead and let you pronounce his name for the first time. Scattaboo. So you were very high on Arizona State, and then they came out and got kicked in the mouth early and then fought all the way back to one of the best games in the last decade of the college football playoff.
Yeah, that was incredible. Like you said, I mean, I wish we had the original recording so people would really believe me, but I was high on them the whole time. I'm just not a Texas believer necessarily. I mean, they got it done in the end. I think the lights got a little too bright for Arizona State there at the end. But hey, you know what? They fought their tails off to be down 16 with like less than right at 8 minutes to go, and converted 2 2-point conversions. That's pretty tough to do, especially against that mighty Texas defense. But then yeah, I mean, I guess I'll tell them about my wrong decision or wrong projection. I was high on Oregon. I thought that the neutral field wasn't going to be a big difference. I thought them having all that time to rest would make a big difference. I thought Dylan Gabriel would show up and play football, not patty cake. But really, I mean, Oregon's defense just did not show up. But yeah, like I said, I was expecting them to win that game, and Ohio State came in and put their foot down, and you called that one.
Well, that was actually I was at the 2019 LSU Oklahoma game with my sister. That was our Christmas present that year. We opened it up from our parents, and they were playing on the 28th. And I remember during that game, Joe Brady and the offensive coordinator at the time, Ensminger, they were kind of talking back and forth after the 4th or 5th touchdown in the first half, and Joe Brady was like, they can't stop it, and he was using a couple more words than that, but he literally was on camera they can't stop it. And it was a little bit of that yesterday in the first half. I mean, Ohio State came out. I think Ohio State was still pissed off from the Michigan game. I think they were still hacked about the disrespect that they were getting. I think the committee did a huge disservice to Oregon, making them that be the rematch game before the semis. In my opinion, those 2 teams are probably 2 of the top 4 teams. I still think both of those teams are better than Penn State. And, it is what it is. But, yeah, so we were both right on one of the – and the good news is I do still have the podcast. It's just all jangled up with the audio, so I should be able to clip that, hopefully, and prove your prediction. So I thought another really funny – so everything that in my brain kind of always relates to golf first, right? Just 10 years of being a golfer. And when they had 4th and 13, they were up in overtime, Arizona State this is, and it was 4th and 13, and the defense wasn't really talking. They weren't communicating. They weren't it was holy crap, we're about to win the football game. And I think the bench felt that. I think Texas was just this is do or die. I don't think they changed their process. I think they just went for the end zone. But Arizona State, I think when they got that sack to make it 4th and 13, or that was 4th and 8, and then they got a penalty or something. But when that happened, that was that situation of being on the 18th fairway, with a chance to win, or 17th fairway, knowing that you have the tournament, or you think you're going to win, and then you come in with a bogey double or whatever, and you cost yourself the tournament because you start thinking ahead of, holy crap, I can't believe we just came back. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe. And then you end up giving up 15 points in 120 seconds, and 90 of those seconds were a TV commercial.
Yeah.
I mean, they scored on almost back-to-back plays. It was like, I think there was like 4 plays and a 2-point conversion. Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Incredible college football game, though. Absolutely.
Yeah, dude, that was so much fun to watch. I just got done like cooking everything that I had cooked inside. The barbecue was still going, the Boston butt was still going, but I was like, I needed to go take it off, but also I was like, it's not going to hurt it to go for a little longer. And I stood right here in front of the TV, and I was like, man, this is history. Just about, like, if Arizona State wins this, it really is history. And my dad was over here at the time. He was like, man, I think if Arizona State wins this, it's 100% rigged because they don't want Georgia and Texas to be to play for a third time. And I was like, you can't rig college football. I think the NFL, there may be some funky things going on there, but college football, I don't think there's anything funky going on.
Well, I was actually listening to a different podcast, and he said that, it's whenever it's the only game on. So like Vegas has like a little bit of influence in any sport if it's the only game on television. If they know that's where all the bets are going to be placed, everybody's watching it, and that's why everybody always thinks like the Super Bowls are rigged and whatnot. I don't personally think they're rigged. I certainly think the league has preferences on who wins, specifically with the Chiefs and the Taylor Swift and all that stuff. But we don't want to get the Swifties mad at us. This is only our 3rd podcast, so let's just avoid that topic altogether. So yesterday we were talking a little bit about just, what it's like to be a golf dad. You had an experience with your daughter yesterday morning where she kind of came into the room and you were wanting to get some putts in with your new sweeper, and you were kind of like in a split second, you were kind of like you wanted to. So go ahead and tell me a little bit more about that moment. I don't want to ruin it for the listeners.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something we talked about, like you said yesterday, just about one of the things that we kind of got into is the patience, right? Like, or kind of our goals, and one of my goals for the year for 2025 was patience with everything from something as simple as just being patient with myself and what I've got going on day to day, and then more complex as far as like patient with my wife and my kid and just people that are around me in general. And so literally wasn't an hour or two after I had written those goals and really deeply thought about what I wanted my personal goals to be, and that moment came up. So yeah, I just was the only one awake. Emmy had just woken up. She came out here and was watching the TV or iPad or something, and she was being real quiet just because, again, she's 5 years old and just got out of bed. She didn't want to talk to anybody. I don't blame her. But and I rolled out my practice putting mat and went into the garage and got my new lab, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna roll some putts in here because we just got done with the podcast with Bill Pressey. I was like, it's kind of got me inspired. So, I mean, I maybe rolled like 4 or 5 putts, and I hear this voice from 10 feet away from me, hey, can I try? And I was like, in my head, I was thinking, man, I really just wanted to kind of get some putts in here, a little bit of unbothered practice time. But then I like immediately in my head, I was like, no, you said that you wanted to be more patient, and you also wanted to, like, that's one thing that I could be patient with. That's one thing that a moment that I could preserve right now. And so, yeah, I just immediately was like, yeah, let's find your clubs. And I went into the room, found her putter, and brought her out here and just kind of helped her. I helped her. I mean, we've done it again. We've done it before, but just kind of helped her with her setup and how to grip it. And then, kind of just walked her through how to hit the putt. And the first one she banged and it went through the kitchen or whatever. And then the second one just didn't quite get to the hole because she didn't know. Again, she's still learning kind of touch and feel. And then the third one she made, and like, oh, she was like, whoa, I actually made it. And I was like, good job. Gave her a fist pump, and she was all excited. So she wanted to do it, some more, and I let her have her time. And it was, I mean, again, I think that just proved to myself in that moment, like, this was more important to me, and her being excited about making a putt and me getting the opportunity to kind of help her find a love for the game. It was way more important than me hitting a few putts on the practice mat myself when I literally work in a golf course basically 7 days a week. So, I've got all the time in the world to practice it myself. And if she has the interest right then and there, being 5 years old and a short attention span, and her ideas change all the time in her head, then I'm going to let her take that moment and again, hopefully spark a little love for the game. So, yeah, I mean, it was definitely in a sense a special moment for me, and it was fun to kind of again, just let that goal that I had just put into my phone and start marinating in my mind to just immediately be impacted right there by it. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, I think there's two things there. That's an awesome story. First of all, how God just kind of provided you the opportunity to accomplish what He had kind of put on your heart and what you had already kind of outwardly said. I think one of the things that with goal setting, and we're going to go back into what our goals are for this year, for 2025, but one of the things when you set goals, you can think about them all you want to, but when you write them down and when you actually are accountable and make yourself go back and look at them, you realize that some of the goals that you set require a little bit of luck, but the majority of the goals that you set are attainable if you just put your head down and you go out and you do it and you put your mind to it. So with that being said, let's get back into your goals for 2025, and then I'll share mine.
Yeah, I'll pull them up really quick just so I don't make any mistakes. Again, yesterday was fresh in my mind. But yeah, like you said, I think just before I get started on it I think it's super important for everybody. But I think, again, this is something my dad taught me and I've taken seriously for the last probably 4 or 5 years of actually writing them down in my phone. I could probably go back and find my 2020 to 2021 goals somewhere in there. And every year I do it. But yeah, so just golf goals, right? So I've got personal golf, health and fitness, financial and spiritual, but we'll just share the golf one. So one of them is for this year is just to get better, keep using the Gen app like I did last year. It's the first time I've tracked all my rounds on Gen as far as score, and I actually used the what is it, like the stats part of it as well. So, and then also we have what's called the sheet, a coach in where is he coach? Somewhere in South Georgia. But anyways, he's never mind, I can't think of it. So he made a Google sheet for college players, and so we bought it, and I have access to it for myself. So it's basically a shots gained app, and so I tracked it through there, and so that's one of my goals, to just continue to track all my rounds. Second, play in 5 events, win at least one. 3 is no rounds above 77, no excuses. So any round that I take somewhat seriously, whether it be going to play with the guys in qualifying or any type of match, or obviously any tournament round, nothing above 77, zero excuses. And then just practice at least once a week, which again is attainable. I had some of the similar goals last year. I was pretty strict on my goals last year, and see, I've also got those still. So last year it was practice 2 days a week. Didn't do that. Play 1 time a week and log the rounds. I didn't play 1 time a week, but I did log all my rounds. Playing 3 events, win 1. I definitely played in 3. I think I played in 4, and I did. So I won 1 by technicality, but I lost in the playoffs. So I said kinda next to that. So I've got a check X there. But yeah, I mean, it's cool to come back and look at these, and I'm looking at all of them, and I love to see how many checks I have. Something I'm going to do different this year is like I said in the original pod, is I'm going to type them up on my computer, print them out, and hang them on my bathroom mirror so that I can be reminded of them. Because there was someone here from last year that I didn't remember necessarily, not just in golf, but in all of my categories. And I think that if I had that reminder, maybe I would have had a better chance of hitting them. One of them, just for an example, one of them was to work out a lot more this year, to go 3 to 5 times a week. And I accomplished that, but there was some other ones on there, such as I don't know, I had intended to read the whole Bible, we'll say, and I got pretty close to reading the entire Bible last year, and I was on a really hot streak. I went every day from January 1st until June or July, where I didn't miss a day of reading, and I had it down to I had to read 6 pages a day in my specific Bible. It was 6 pages a day to do it in 365. I made it almost 6 months, or right at 6 months, so I thought that was impressive. But this year, one of my spiritual goals is just to read more of the Bible with more intent. And so, there's some differences there, but I think just being more realistic about who I am and kind of the time that I have to do certain things. Now, it's never an excuse to not have time to do that, but I'm trying to start somewhere a little different this year, but also, like I said, hang them up, and maybe I'll check a few of those boxes early, and I can put a new goal in there, or add to that specific goal. And maybe I could read the whole Bible this year, or pick up where I left off and finish it off. So some neat things there. I think just talking about goals is important. Again, I think for golf parents, any person, writing them down, keeping track of them, I think it just kind of motivates you and makes you better at all things. But for you,
for sure.
Let's talk about your goals.
Ooh, a couple things right there that you said that I thought were very important is, it's one thing to think about your goals or kind of come up with your goals, brainstorm what you want to do, what you want to accomplish. And maybe that takes a little while. Maybe that takes some time to figure out and some clarity. But once you have your goals in mind, I think like what you said, it's very important to have a visual representation of that goal, whether that be your list in your bathroom or your background on your phone, at certain times of the day, or maybe it's the last thing you look at before you go to sleep and just see how well you did, stuff like that, just to be able to accomplish those. But what do I know? I am an adult male with ADHD, and sometimes my goals do not get accomplished all the way. My 2025 golf goals specific, they look so much different this year than in previous years. I'm used to playing 60 to 90 rounds a year. I'm used to being on the golf course every single day, at the teaching facility, on the driving range, etc. So golf goals look a little bit more like your normal golf dad, I think. Play 18 holes a week, and I have a note that says will be tough next to that. If for those of y'all that don't know, I have moved to Tennessee to essentially be a stay-at-home dad, but I am still going to be involved with some golf stuff on the side and teaching online golf instruction and whatnot. So play 18 holes a week, and then I have a note that says it can be 2 9s, 118, etc. It doesn't really matter. Scoring average under 75. So this has been a couple years in a row, scoring average. I think last year I tried to make it 70. No, I think it was 75, but then I was playing at Noonan. So now I'm going to try 75 up here in Tennessee. I think it's going to be a little bit easier if I can't. We'll see. See how much we practice. I have been swinging a lot, so that is good. My third is to play in the Tennessee State Open and 2 other tournaments. So I haven't researched what other 2 tournaments that I can play in as a non-PGA affiliated golf pro up here. But I know I can play in the Tennessee State Open, so I'm going to try to play in that. And then the last one is kind of a sentimental one. It's the 4th one. It's to, by the end of the year, play 9 holes with Jet and Skylar in the cart. So that doesn't seem like a big deal, but Jet will be, he'll be 1 in July. So taking a 1-year-old out, that's crazy. He'll be 1 in July. That's insane. It's already coming. But taking a 1-year-old on the golf course, I don't think many even try. If they do, it's going to be fun. We'll see. So more specifically, some of the things that I think we've mentioned is it's okay not to know exactly what your goals for the year are. Sometimes it takes a little time to get those together. That's kind of where I'm going with that is, life is so fluid right now. I don't really know where I'm going to be, what I'm going to be doing, where we're going to be living, what side of Nashville we're going to be living on since we're just renting here now. And so, life changes and sometimes you have very concrete goals where you're at the place where the point in your life where you know exactly what's going to happen, what you want to do. And then other times I think like this year for me, it's just, those are just my golf goals and they're kind of quaint. They're just kind of like, if this happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't, because that's not the sole focus of my life at this point. With that being said, though, I'm still super pumped to be a golf pro. And I do have a bone to pick with a little bit of, people saying, well, don't push them into it. Don't push them into it. It's like, yeah, but there's a certain side of us where I think that if your child sees how much you love the game and see how much enjoyment you get out of the game and you put them in the environment that is fun, that is friendly. We're not talking about turning them into, super, they must practice at 3 years old type of deal. I'm just talking about being so involved with the game of golf that my son is raised in the game of golf. And I think that you have a lot of PGA pros as examples of that. Not saying that either of our, children are going to be even great high school golfers. But at the same time, I think the odds are much better in their favor if golf dads are present in the game of golf, rather than if they like it, they like it. They could try soccer, they could try this. He can try whatever he wants to try, but he's also going to try golf, right? I think that it would just be such a wasted resource for him not to try golf. I remember my dad will never admit to this. He'll be like, and my dad's one of the people who's like, you can't force him into it. But if I was saying we're going to force him into basketball, you'd probably be all about it, Pops. You had the mini tight basketball goal in the kitchen when I was like 18 months old. And I don't remember you letting me win, even though you claimed that you did. I don't remember that. It's just one of those things where it would be such a wasted resource for me not to try to put my son into golf. As a golf pro, as somebody that is somewhat knowledgeable about the game of golf, the swing, how to do it, what helps develop a child in the game of golf, I've taught, and had very successful dealings with beginners at all ages. So if he decides he doesn't like it and then he wants us to pick it up at 12, that's fine too. I'm going to be all about that as well. But I think that if you get him into the game and they understand the environment and the enjoyment and the loving nature. We don't have that much nature left, people. Like, there's not that many opportunities to take your kids outdoors, outside, especially if you live in a city. Okay, for example, I love walking like the little trails. There's one in Carrollton, there's one in Noonan, Piedmont. Piedmont has the big one in Atlanta. There's one in LaGrange. They're phenomenal. They're great. How interesting is it to a child?
Yeah, not.
It's a trail with
on a scooter, and they're on a scooter for about the first 500 feet, and they're like, carry this.
Yeah, you're too big to ride the scooter, even though every dying part of our body wants to hop on the scooter. It's just one of the situations. It's like there's not that much that we can do with our children to get them in nature if you don't live out in nature. That's one of the reasons like Skylar and I were so picky about where we wanted to live and why we committed to her commuting almost an hour back into Nashville. We wanted Jet to be raised with dirt in between his toes and be able to be outside and see our horses and see the neighbors' pigs. And, we wanted him to be able to experience the outdoors, nature, God's creation. And if you can tell me that you get the same amount of enjoyment on a t-ball field that you do on a golf course, that's fine. I'll shut up. But I don't think there's many people that can say that, because you also have to deal with 14 other kids and their parents on the t-ball field, whereas on the golf course, it's just you and your son, God, and nature. It's like if your kid liked to go hiking and go on the Appalachian Trail when they're a teenager. Like, that's rare. Not many kids like that. And you can do it for 4 hours, 5 times a week?
Yeah. No,
not actually, but you get my point there.
Yeah, no, I mean, to your point too, though, is like, so I had this summer was the first time that I brought Emmy, my stepdaughter, to the golf course with me. Now, I've been a part of her life since she was 2. She has a very present father, but she lives primarily with us, and so I consider myself to be her dad. Like I'm just, I would say, bonus dad almost, right? But I finally got to where she could come to the golf course with me, and she's come to the golf course a bunch since me and my wife started dating. I think she was 2 at the time. No, I think she was 2 at the time. Since then, she's come to the golf course. She came and watched our home event when she was 2, and rode around on the golf cart, and she was very good with it and this and that. But it was just me and her, and it was just an opportunity for me to take her out there. And we brought her clubs, but she wasn't at that time. She wasn't interested necessarily in like playing too much. She hit a couple of balls here and there, but she just wanted to be there, right? She wanted to be there. She wanted to hold a golf ball, an extra golf ball. She wanted to be able to run up and down and race the golf cart and play in the sand and and just watch me play golf. And she thought it was so cool that she was like, "How did you do that?" Or like, how do you make the ball go there? And like, why do you tee it up? She's very, very smart. She had so many questions, but it was such a cool opportunity, or a cool moment, really a long moment. But I think I played like 6 or 7 holes just to go out there and kill some time and just let her kind of be there with me and kind of experience playing golf instead of just watching it or whatever. And again, like, it was, like you said, it's so much easier to give them all the attention, but then also allow them to be creative out there. I think that's something neat about golf, especially. I mean, it's not like this at every golf course, but like for us, we in the afternoons we're either super busy or we're not busy at all. And that day there wasn't many people out there, so it kind of allowed her to just be free and be, it's basically like throwing putting a horse in an open pasture, right? Like, just be free, have fun, run around, like, again, playing in the sand. Some people may gripe about it. I'm going to rake it. But she gets to do that. She gets to find the little things that she enjoys about that, versus like you take her to t-ball practice, which she's done that too, or you take her to soccer practice. It's like they don't have enough time to, I guess, like, play around almost. It's like everything has to be structured. They're on a time limit. They're in a very confined space. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with getting kids into organized sports. I think that's what helps any successful athlete be successful, is the organization of sports. But I also think that golf is a unique opportunity for kids to go out and kind of be a kid, right? Like, they don't have to follow the rules necessarily all the time out there. And I think, again, junior camps are huge for development in the game. But I think finding the love for the game is having them out there in that nature, like you said, and allowing them to just find something about it that's fun and enjoyable, and that's going to make them want to come back. right? If they're at
Yeah,
T-ball practice
for
or
sure.
whatever, and they're getting yelled at by the coach about, hey, don't do that, or run, or whatever it may be. Like they don't, in golf,
Right.
there's no time limit, right?
Well,
Unless it gets dark.
I think it's something to do with the creative nature of the child too. Like if you have an independent child, a creative thinker, somebody with like that's almost to the point where they're so imaginative. I was not this child, by the way. Like let me be very very specific here. I was the baseball player that wanted to be Chipper Jones, shortstop, take it seriously. At 8 years old, if you're not trying your hardest and you're out there, like I'm yelling at you. I was that kid. If you have a child that is less kind of wanting to be that kind of less exposed to sports as a whole, maybe less caring about what's that team or who's this, what's their mascot. Try golf. Like, try golf. Because not only there's so many different ways to think about golf, right? The way that we want you as golf coaches to think about golf is not necessarily by your score or by this or by that, but we just want you to be as creative as you possibly can and get the ball in the hole as quickly as you possibly can, right? To be honest, we don't care if it's a 7 or a 4 if you play fast. No, I'm just kidding. That was a joke. But no, on the real, like golf is the perfect example of a sport that is so hands off until you get to a certain level about the rules. Now, I'm not saying that you can take a 7-year-old that's never played the game of golf and go enroll him in a tournament and expect him to do well or even be able to finish the tournament. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is for 3 straight summers, put no rules on the game of golf and take your 3-year-old out there and see what he looks like at 5. See how well he's swinging the golf club at 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 7, 8, let's attach rules. Because one of the things I've noticed is the best kids have the best kids not specifically know the most about like the game of golf, but the ones that truly develop into the best players, they're watching older kids and they want to play by the rules. So what happens is they're so creative till it gets to the point where, okay, now I have the skill set to be able to follow the rules. If you can't hit the ball in the air as a 7 or 8-year-old, you can't go play golf. I've got 15 or so, and they're great kids, right? That we've taught previously in our past life that I can think of that have great looking swings, but they can't get the ball physically in the air because they're not strong enough, or maybe they're trying to put too much form over just skill, hand-eye coordination, physical ability. Go hit the heck out of the golf ball. Go smack it around. If you skip that step, it gets a whole lot harder to confine or make them come in and form into the game of golf when it is time to be competitive, when it is time to have rules. So I think there's a very specific, not saying that you have to do it this way, right? There's certainly 1,000 different ways to do it. I've seen 3-year-olds with more golf manners than on the golf course than some grown adults. So you can raise them in such a way where they just act like a golfer from the jump, and they think like a golfer, and they do everything like a golfer. But you also can go the more, I guess, the more non-traditional route, which is tee it up in the fairway. Tee it up every chance you get. Like, let them throw it onto the green if they want to throw it onto the green. Let them play in the sand trap. Just make sure you rake it behind you to leave it in just as nice a shape or better shape than it was. And also know where you're going with your child, right? Like, know what golf course you're going to. There are family-friendly golf courses that are used to having kids out, and maybe they're busy, but like they're busy with people that are all doing the same things. $100+ golf courses that you don't have a babysitter, but you don't want to miss out with your friends. So then you drag your kid to the golf course, and everyone has a miserable time because your kid doesn't want to be there. You don't want your kid to be there. Your friends don't want your kid to be there. Your wife doesn't want your kid to be there. And everyone's mad at you. They're not mad at your child. They're mad at you. So don't be that guy. Take your kids to the golf course when it is appropriate. Take your kids to the golf course when it is just a good idea. And then more specifically, leave the golf course. Like you said, leave the golf course 5 minutes before they want to. I think that was your point in the very first episode. It's like, leave the golf course right before they want to leave. Or at the worst case, leave the golf course the first time they say they want to leave. Okay, you want to go? That's fine. Let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
We're not going to keep you.
Like, yeah, that's what I do with Emmy. Like, when she's been to some practices and some days when I just have to go down there and maybe do a little bit of work. And, we've got a putting green right outside of my office, and she loves that. And she goes in there and she just rolls balls. And like the first few times that she did it, I was like, no, you got to use a putter. But to your point, like I found myself in exactly what you're saying was like, I don't care if you roll it in there. I just want you to enjoy it, because at the end of the day, you're going to be like, I'm not saying that I'm going to bring you here all the time or make you come here, but it's at some point it's part of your life, because it is my life essentially, right? Like golf is something that I'll never get away from, because I don't want to, and B, it's currently my career and I plan on it being my career for my whole life. But enjoy it however you need to enjoy it. And I've asked her multiple times, do you want to go with me, or do you want to stay here with your mom, or whatever, like in the summertime, whatever it may be, like. And a lot of times she says no, and I'm okay with that. Like I get it. I'm not going to drag you down there to go play or ride in the cart with me or go, whatever. But she's starting to kind of open up. She loves the guys. The guys love her and love having her around. They think it's awesome and funny. And she thinks it's too cool to come back and like she'll see a picture of them and name them all or whatever. But I think that there's a lot of truth to a lot of what you're saying, as far as like, just let them have fun with it. Don't restrict them to a certain set of rules that you think is how it should go, or how we're supposed to treat the game of golf. Because then, I'm not saying that it, like you said, it's not every single time, but a lot of times that's going to push the kid away from it. And if you want your kid to be involved with golf, let them be involved with golf how they want to from the jump. If they do love it, they'll stay with it. And if you make it fun, they will love it. So they will stay with it. And like, again, like one other thing too, I guess, is about the like pushing them into it, right? Is like, I think it kind of gets misconstrued a little bit as far as like pushing them into it. Like for me, when I was a kid, my dad did push me into a lot of different sports, but it was more so just to allow me to experience those sports and decide if I wanted to do them. I don't know. There was some, like, I know basketball and baseball, I wanted to do on my own. He always wanted me to play football, and I had an older cousin who played football, so I did too. And so I played tackle football from the time I was like 5 years old until I was in high school. And then I stopped playing in high school because at that time golf was just, I was much better at golf than I was football. And I was much better at golf than I was at baseball. I was much better at golf than anything else. And so I was more competitive in that, and I'm too competitive a person to be bad at something and continue to do it, or not be the best on the field and continue to do it. And again, like, it wasn't that he ever pushed me necessarily to keep on doing something. He pushed me into it and maybe had to force me to some practices here and there, but it wasn't for his enjoyment. It was for him to say, hey, look, this is what, if I was your age, this is what I would have done. And looking back now, like the times that I did get forced into it, I'm glad that I did.
I've got a football story for you. So there was two things that knocked me out of football completely, like from the jump. Not from the jump. So I was the quarterback of our C team football, and C team football was like third, fourth, and fifth grade. And our first year was my fourth grade year. So fifth grade year. So it was the first year of the C team. I was the quarterback, fifth grade, go right into JV, sixth through eighth grade. I'm the backup quarterback, and I love playing quarterback. I could throw. I was a pitcher in baseball. Like, I'd been playing sports. That was the first time I really played football, though. Like, I did not play 5-year-old football, PVU football, or anything. So my seventh grade year, they put me as a cornerback and backup quarterback, right? And I was a terrible cornerback. Nobody passed, right? Nobody passed. Let me be clear. No one passed the ball. But what they did, they would box everybody up, and then the corners would have to scrunch in, and then I'd be like defending the options, and it would, oh my God, I was terrible. I was so bad. It was not a very good contact experience for me playing defense when I had never really tackled before. So that knocked me out of football pretty quickly. No amount of love of playing quarterback could keep me in the game after that. But then I started playing basketball, played basketball as a varsity in eighth grade, and blah, blah, blah. So you get into, eventually you play all the sports, eventually you do all of that. And when you're a child, it's really good to try all the sports. Like, you have countless people telling you, professional athletes saying, quit the one sport things. Like, yes, all of our friends were doing the one sports, and we were better than all of them playing all of these other sports. Like, you need all the sports to develop your motor skills. So I think that's a testament to what your dad did. you put your kids in all the sports, you figure out what they like most, what they're good at, what they're going to gravitate for, and then you keep them in the other sports as long as they'll tolerate it. Right?
Yeah.
You don't take them out of the sport just because they're showing promise in one and then strip them of the motor skills of everything else. I think that's the biggest thing. So, with that being said, this is a time capsule. When my son's 5 years old and developing a nasty golf swing, we can come back to this and you can say, Scott, you've got to put him in T-ball. You got to do this. You got to do that, because this is what you said on January 2nd, 2025 that you were going to do. And that way I can keep myself honest there. But no, I think all sports are good. I have for kids developments, hand-eye coordination, etc. Let's get a little bit. Let's flip it. Let's go back into college football. We are at 38 minutes. Let's get to 45. Let's make this the longest pod by 5 minutes. Georgia football. First of all, I do have something I want to do at the end to close it out, but all of the families that were affected by 2 nights ago's tragedy or yesterday morning's tragedy, terrorism has no place in the United States of America, in my opinion. I'm not scared to say that.
It doesn't have place anywhere.
Of course not. Of course not. And it's one of those things where I'm just so devastated because it's something that everybody's thought of. It's like if you've played the game of GTA and seen how some people play the game of GTA, where they don't care about the missions and all they want to do is that, it's something that everybody's thought of as far as this could possibly happen, and I would be terrified of that happening if I was standing here. It's also why, I don't know if you saw the people running to the front of the ball drop. Somebody was like, these people need to be studied. You know what I'm talking about? In Times Square, the people sprinting to the front. But at the same time, it's that's what being a human being is being able to experience things and being able to go out in crowds and whatnot. Thankfully it just was thankfully it wasn't more it wasn't more people in a busier, it was 3:00 in the morning, and but just prayers out to everybody that was affected from that. So let's say that before we talk about the game, thought it was the right call to move the game. I know that bummed out your family plans last night and whatnot of watching the game all together, but I thought it was a good call to move the game. I was hoping that they would do the right thing and move the game. Other than the anticipation, you've already told us how you're excited about it and you're double as nervous now. Should we just do new predictions, or are we sticking with the same?
I mean, I'm still. I'll stick to mine.
I'm sticking to mine too.
Everybody that really knows me, like my friends, they know how negative of a fan I am, and it's just who I am and how I am. I set my expectations down here when it comes to Georgia football.
Dude, my parents, my family almost disowns me because of how negative I am about LSU. If you pull up my my Twitter, oh my God. Sometimes I go back and delete tweets because I'm so mad at myself for tweeting that during the game. I'm I sound like a spoiled baby right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I give myself a little bit of a break because, I'm technically a Falcons fan, and I was a big time Falcons fan until whatever year 20.
Tom Brady killed you.
Whatever, yeah, that hurt pretty bad. And then, I've been a pretty much a diehard Georgia fan since I was a child, so I've seen a ton of heartbreak, and so I just naturally I expect the worst when it comes to Georgia football. But I will say I think I'm excited about Gunnar Stockton getting his first true start tonight, or here in just a few minutes. I'm excited to watch him play. I think that they're going to get it done. What I say, 26-13? No. What was my prediction? 24-16 or something?
23-17 dog.
17, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick to that. To be honest, I think that they get it done. I think it'll be a pretty tight game, and I think it just all comes down to, well, it doesn't know what it comes down to, because every game we've trailed and then somehow come back and won, except for Alabama, and we kind of blew that one almost in a sense when we came all the way back.
There's one more too, Bubba. Georgia has two.
I know Ole Miss, but that we just never could get past Ole Miss. I'm just saying, all the other game, we trailed to Texas at halftime. Gunnar Stockton came in and did his thing, and trailed to Kentucky for a while and won a rock fight there. We trailed to Georgia Tech bad, and had to make a crazy comeback. Great and 8. Good grief, it's been a crazy year. But I will say, I think the resilience of the team is next level, and I think that's what gets the job done tonight.
So I said yesterday, that I believe, and this is what I'm sticking with, this will not be a close game. Georgia is going to come out and do Georgia things that have been making me so angry since 2018, except for that one year that was magical when LSU beat Georgia 37-10 in Atlanta. But other than that, Georgia has been pretty much the dominant force in college football. 2 of the last 3. That doesn't stop. The Dogs roll 41-17. My official prediction, 41-17 Georgia. I think I'm being a little bit, it's probably not going to happen after all of this that's happened. It's probably going to be 2 very focused teams, or 2 very unfocused teams, I should say. It might turn out to be a sloppier game than I think. But if Kirby Smart is the coach that I think he is, which I think he is, and if it's his dad falling in the hospital and whatnot, it's not too much of a distraction for him and the team, I think Georgia should come out and get this one done. The one thing that scares me for Georgia, if I'm wrong completely and they don't get off to a hot start and they don't run away with it like I think they're going to do, Notre Dame is I think Kirby said it, Notre Dame's built like an SEC team. And the O-line and the D-line, Notre Dame has a chance to kind of hang and at least, blow back a little bit and push back against the Georgia offensive and defensive line. So should be a good game. We're about to go watch it here. Anything else you got for episode 3?
No, man, excited about it. Bummed a little bit that our first one got canceled, but I think we replicated it pretty well. We didn't necessarily talk about everything the same, and I think that's a good thing. And we just kind of flowed. I think it was good. And just tell all your buddies to listen to us, subscribe. The wise words of a guy that I listen to that I'm not going to name because no free ads, but he always says it doesn't cost you anything. It just helps us grow the channels. At the end of the day, our ultimate goal, I think, is just to reach the audience that we're looking for in golf dads. And obviously you're a brand new golf dad. I'm sort of already a golf dad, about to be a golf dad of 2. So we're more so looking for advice of our own, but we're trying to give what advice we have to those that are maybe in the same boat as us or have kids already. So let them know.
For sure. And I think the one thing that everybody's hopefully understanding from this is we're not claiming to have all the answers. We are coming on here as 2 friends that this is kind of our time of the week to catch up because I moved across the state. It's funny that we've been talking about doing this podcast for a long time. And when we were seeing each other frequently, that's all it was just an idea, just going back and forth. But then we both kind of got more serious about it, and we knew it was an opportunity. I want to end this one by doing something that, we might do occasionally if we felt led to. But for some reason, God just put it on my heart that I want to end this podcast in a prayer. I wanted to pray for the families and whatnot that were affected in New Orleans and elsewhere. But mostly just start this year on a right note on the podcast, and more specifically do everything to show God the glory. And he is the reason we're doing this, and he is the reason that we do anything in our life. So dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for who you are. We thank you so much for what you do for us each and every day of our lives. We pray that you just put your hand of protection over everyone in the city of New Orleans and across the globe tonight, Lord. And we just pray that you just keep everyone safe. And no matter what, we know that we trust in you and we love you, and more specifically, you love us. And we just are so thankful for your son, Jesus Christ, who came on the cross and died for our sins. Thank you. Love you. And just be with Maddux, his whole family, as they start the new year, my whole family, and everyone who listens to the podcast. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Maddux, it was a pleasure today, buddy. This was fun. We'll be texting during the game. Good luck to your dogs.
Yeah, go Dogs.
Catch you.
See ya.